Newly released report shows that a grant program designed to eliminate the backlog of untested rape kits across the country is finally starting to make an impact.
In 2015, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office created a grant with the goal to eliminate backlogs of untested rape kits across the country. Team 12's Mike Gonzalez is live in Studio 12A with the impact the grant is making across the country and also right here in Arizona.
Good evening, Kariba and Mark. More than $38 million has been awarded to 20 states to test thousands of backlogged rape kits. In the state of Arizona, more than 6,000 rape kits were untested in 2015. But thanks to more than $2 million in grants, that number is closing in on zero. It's a staggering statistic, but as of January of 2019, there's still an estimated backlog of 155,000 untested sexual assault kits from across the country. The reasons vary from kits being collected more than 40 years ago when DNA testing didn't exist to lack of resources and training. Here's the facts. In 2015, the number of untested rape kits stood at more than 6,400 in the state of Arizona, including more than 4,300 in Maricopa County. Fast forward to March of 2019, it's now at 962 statewide and just 300 in Maricopa County. The newly released report from the Manhattan DA's office also shows arrests and convictions as a result of the grants. In Maricopa County, 14 arrests have resulted in 7 convictions. In Tempe, there's been 12 arrests and 7 convictions, and in Tucson, there's been 7 total convictions. Nationwide, the number's also moving in the right direction. More than 55,000 kits have been tested. 18,000 DNA profiles have been uploaded to FBI databases, resulting in 186 arrests and more than 100 convictions. So a lot of progress has been made. Maricopa County and Phoenix Police have received an additional $2.7 million in funding from the U.S. Justice Department to cover the cost for testing the remaining kits. That money will also be used to hire additional staff specifically for these sexual assault cases. Live in the newsroom, I'm Mike Gonzalez, 12 News.
All right, Mike, thank you.